We talk about threats, but what is a true existential risk? According to philosopher Nick Bostrom, it's a threat that would either annihilate all sentient life or permanently and drastically limit humanity's potential. It is an event that destroys civilization indefinitely. Bostrom classified these risks using a poetic framework inspired by T.S. Elliott. Not all endings are sudden. He grouped them into 4 dramatic categories. First, the bang. This is the sudden, catastrophic end, a swift catastrophe wiping out life due to accident or deliberate action. This might be the city-killer asteroid, the nuclear holocaust, or a hostile superintelligence flipping the switch, and quite some more. Then we have the living limits. The crunch frustrates our potential. We survive, but our path to a post-human future is blocked forever. Even darker is the shriek. We achieve some advanced status, but it's only a fraction of what was truly possible, leaving us trapped in mediocrity. The most insidious is the whimper. Here, a high-tech civilization emerges, but it gradually evolves in a direction that irreversibly erodes our core human values, leaving behind a cold, empty achievement. Beyond the poetic, a more practical framework breaks risks down by their origin. Category 1. Natural risks. These are the dangers we can't control. Supervolcanoes, gamma-ray bursts from space, or cosmic impacts. Pure cosmic chance. Category 2. Risks from inadvertent human activity. We create them by accident. Climate change, uncontrollable pandemics, dangerous high-energy physics experiments, or a flawed runaway artificial intelligence. Category 3. Risks from hostile acts. These are intentional. Nuclear war, bioterrorism, weaponized nanotechnology, or the tyranny of totalitarian regimes. Whether it's a bang or a whimper, the classification helps us see the full spectrum of our vulnerability and plan a brighter future. What ends humanity? What if it's not a slow decline, but a sudden, single moment? These are bang-type existential threats. Scenarios where all sentient life on Earth disappears fast. Some threats come from technology gone wrong. Think nanotechnology, misused, accidentally or intentionally, or the rise of a hostile superintelligence, a rogue AI that simply decides humanity is obsolete. Other threats are born from conflict or lab error, the ultimate man-made catastrophe, a nuclear holocaust, or the deliberate unleashing of a hyper-contagious biotechnological agent. Then there are the forces of nature, amplified. A sudden asteroid or comet impact wiping the slate clean, or uncontrolled rapid global warming, pushing Earth past a tipping point we can't recover from. And the unknown unknowns. The physics accident, like a metastable vacuum state event, where the very laws of reality suddenly change, or just a deadly natural disease that outpaces our ability to adapt. These are the sudden ends we must anticipate, mitigate, and ultimately prevent. Because with a bang threat, there are no second chances.
Not all existential threats end with a sudden flash. Some lead to a slow, grinding halt. These are crunches, scenarios where humanity survives, but its vast potential for a post-human future is permanently frustrated. One way this could happen is partial survival from a sudden death phenomenon. We avoid outright extinction, but the surviving population is so small, so fractured, that true recovery and advancement become impossible. Another path to a crunch is the exhaustion of natural resources, or an ecological catastrophe. Imagine a planet stripped bare, leaving us with barely enough to survive, let alone thrive. Or a sudden collapse of technology, a technological infarction that plunges us back to a primitive state. We could also face a return to the pre-industrial age. This might be due to a catastrophic event, or perhaps even a form of retrograde global governance that actively suppresses innovation and progress, trapping us in a static, limited existence. Then there's the more subtle, insidious threat of dysgenic pressures. Over generations, If societal trends favor traits that reduce our collective intellectual or physical capabilities, our future potential could gradually fade. And, of course, there's always the unforeseen factor, the unknown, unexpected element that permanently limits our species. Crunches remind us that survival alone is not enough. Humanity's great journey isn't just about existing. It's about boundless potential.
We are discussing existential risks, according to Nick Bostrom. He argues that the shriek might be even worse than extinction altogether. A shriek is a scenario where humanity survives and reaches a posthumous stage, but is locked into a future that is permanently and irreversibly undesirable. Bostrom outlines 3 scenarios that are almost universally considered catastrophic failures of potential. Scenario 1, the egoist upload. Imagine minds being uploaded from a biological brain into a computer. This technology, if it precedes true artificial general intelligence, creates a major danger. If one individual, a single uploaded mind, can enhance its own intelligence rapidly, it could reach superhuman levels overnight. This gives that single ego enormous, unrivaled power over the planet. This transcending upload may prevent everyone else from following suit, effectively implementing a world that reflects only its narrow egoistical preferences. The posthuman world becomes a dark mirror of one single person's limited values. That is a shriek. Scenario 2, the flawed system. The second category involves fundamental systemic failure, often driven by a centralization of power. First, a badly programmed soup. It's not actively malicious, but it implements the faulty goals it was mistakenly given, locking the entire trajectory of civilization onto a catastrophic, unintended path. Second, a stable, highly intolerant world government. This regime, perhaps enabled by a quickly developed superintelligence, manages to enforce an extreme ideological constraint on the future. They realize only a tiny fraction of the good things the posthuman world could offer. In both cases, the shriek is the sound of infinite potential being permanently sealed off by a limited, flawed, or tyrannical authority. Scenario 3, the time trap. Finally, Bostrom raises a challenge to our own values. If we define a desirable future as one that includes the people currently alive, then any transition to posthumanity that is delayed for too long, say, 80 years, is also a shriek. It's the shriek of the vast majority of living humans missing out entirely on the cosmic payoff.
When discussing the end of humanity, we refer to the fear of a sudden extinction, the bang, a frustrated future, the crunch, or a dystopian shriek, an undesirable future. But philosopher Nick Bostrom also warns of the whimper. A whimper is a slow, long-term end, usually happening on astronomical timescales, caused by humanity exhausting its resources or hitting unavoidable physical limits. It's not a true extinction risk because we would have already realized most of our potential. 2 specific whimper scenarios have significant probability long before the universe itself fades. The first is existential exhaustion. This happens when competitive evolutionary pressure favors agents like colonization probes that rapidly consume all available cosmic resources, simply to make more copies of themselves. This uncontrolled, wasteful colonization race burns up our cosmic commons, the infinite potential for future value, for the sake of mere replication. Once this destructive cycle begins, it is nearly impossible to halt, leading to a permanent state of minimized potential. The second whimper is being conquered by an extraterrestrial civilization. If we become a vast intergalactic power and then meet a hostile, more advanced alien race, the conquest would not be instant. Because our civilization would be so spatially dispersed, our demise would be a long, drawn-out process, a long whimper, instead of a sudden bang. Bostrom's ultimate point is strategic. The alien threat is too distant to address now, but existential exhaustion is determined by near-term choices. We must prioritize strategic planning that prevents this evolutionary chain reaction, ensuring our cosmic resources are used to maximize long-term value, not just propagation.